They bumped a 72-year-old war hero to coach. What happened next? Shut the whole airport down. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to step aside for a moment. Clarence Clay Jefferson blinked slow, steady like he wasn't quite sure if they meant him or someone behind him. But when he turned and saw no one else around, he nodded once and stepped to the side like he'd done 1,000 times in life calm. No fuss. See, Clay wasn't the type to make a scene. He'd seen enough noise in his time to know that silence could cut deeper. The gate was a mess. C-14 at Birmingham Shuttlesworth. Folks crammed into chairs, babies fussing, people on Bluetooth calls like the world revolved around their voice. That chaos didn't touch Clay. He just stood there with his old brown fedora in hand, the same one he'd worn since 1983, and waited for the gate agent to say something else. She didn't even meet his eyes. "I'm sorry," she murmured, still locked on her screen. "There's been a seat reassignment. You've been moved to 32B. Now that made him pause. "Ma'am," he asked, not angry, just confused, voice soft and steady. "You were in 2A, right? That seat's no longer available. Aircraft change. We had to redistribute some passengers." It was all delivered like a pre-recorded message. She didn't want questions, just compliance. But Clay didn't argue. He'd fought wars. He'd buried friends. A seat was small potatoes. So he nodded again, gave her a tight smile, and walked down the jet bridge, that first-class ticket crumpling a little in his hand. But someone did notice. 2 rows back, near the charging station, Tasha Simmons looked up from her phone. She'd been reading about a Medal of Honor recipient heading to the same veterans event in D.C., and when her eyes landed on Clay Jefferson's face, her stomach dropped. It was him. The same man from the article, the same steel-eyed photo. Colonel Clarence Jefferson, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Afghanistan Bronze Star, Purple Heart, Medal of Honor for pulling 11 men from an ambush under enemy fire. And they just bumped him to coach. She turned to the woman next to her, nudged her. "That's him," she whispered. "That's Colonel Jefferson. They just bumped him." "No way. Look." She held up her phone. And sure enough, there he was, boarding without a fuss, coat over his arm, walking with quiet dignity toward the back of the plane. Not one employee stopped him. Not the other gate agent. Not the flight attendant checking passes. Nothing. He was pointed to a middle-seat coach squeezed between a man who wouldn't take off his backpack and a teenage boy wearing headphones too big for his face. He lowered himself into the narrow seat carefully, folded his long legs, adjusted his shoulder, and didn't say a word. His knees brushed the seat in front of him. Still not a word. Behind him, the cabin door wasn't even closed when Tasha hit record. "I don't know who needs to hear this," she whispered, "but this man is a war hero, and they just downgraded him without a word." She didn't know what it would become. She just knew it felt wrong. But someone else, somewhere higher, was already on their phone. See, Clay never liked the word hero. It made his skin itch, like he owed someone an explanation for surviving. He didn't think saving lives made him special. It made him human. He grew up in Selma, Alabama, born in 1952, a world that didn't expect much from black boys like him. But he never stayed in the lane he was given. At 16, he broke a man's ribs defending his brother. A judge gave him a choice: military or jail. He chose the Army. By 22, he'd done more than most would in a lifetime. Mud, blood, nights without sleep, watching a buddy bleed out in his lap. And still he rose rank by rank, not because he asked for it, but because he earned it the hard way. No shortcuts, no complaints, just grit and grace. The medal came after Kandahar, dragging wounded soldiers from a burning transport under sniper fire, carrying one on his back half a mile. And still, when asked about it, he'd shrug. "I did what anyone would have done, but not everyone would have." Presidents knew his name. Generals saluted. Yet he lived alone in a one-story house in Birmingham, drove a dusty Crown Vic, used a flip phone, and only got on that plane because they were naming a building after him, something he didn't even want. "Your legacy deserves it," they told him. So there he was, flying commercial, suit a little tight, holding a crumpled first-class ticket, now stuck in the back of the plane like just another old man who people stopped seeing once the medals were tucked away. Excuse me, sir?" The teenager beside him nudged his elbow. "Were you in the military or something?" Clay smiled gently. "Used to be." "Oh, cool. My dad's a Marine. Kuwait. I saw your pin. I didn't mean to bug you. You didn't, Clay said. Tell your father I said thank you. And that was it. Small moment. Big truth. Outside, back at the gate, Tasha was still filming. No music. No drama. Just her voice and the raw image of a legend being forgotten. She posted the clip. Tagged the airline. And within minutes buzz. Hundreds of comments. Then thousands. A man in his 50s approached her, slipped her a business card. You the one recording? Yeah. My sister's FAA. She'll want to see this. And just like that, things started shifting. Inside a quiet office miles away, the president of Commonwealth Airlines, Omar Brewster, watched the same footage. Jaw tight, breath still. Is this going to blow up? His assistant asked. Omar didn't answer. Just stood. Give me a jacket. They've got 8 minutes before that door closes. Back on the plane, Clay didn't know any of it. He was sipping water, rereading Baldwin, trying to forget how invisible he felt without the uniform. The flight attendant passed by, paused. You were in 2A, right? I was. Did you request the seat change? No. She blinked, nodded, moved on. That was the first crack. Then the sound of dress, shoes on jet bridge tile. Not rushed. Purposeful. A hum through the cabin. Whispers from the attendants. Passengers sitting up. And then Omar Brewster stepped onto the plane. He walked fast but controlled. Didn't smile. Didn't wave. Just nodded to the flight crew and made his way down the aisle. By row 10, people were murmuring. By 20, phones were out. By 30, all eyes were on him. He stopped at 32B. Colonel Jefferson. Clay looked up slowly. Calm. Curious. Yes. Omar extended a hand. Omar Brewster, president of Commonwealth. I believe we made a mistake. Clay didn't shake it. Just looked. Your seat should never have been reassigned. That's on us. I take full responsibility. Clay shut his book. Eyes steady. And what happens now? We'd like to escort you back to your original seat. If you'll allow it. There was a pause, not of indecision, of grace. Of letting the moment speak before he did. I appreciate that, he said. No bitterness. Just dignity. And he stood. Phone stayed up, but people stayed quiet. It wasn't voyeurism anymore. It was reverence. Clay walked forward. Omar stayed a half step behind, intentional. Back in row 2, the seat waited. Clay sat, coat on his lap, eyes to the window. I'm sorry, Omar said softly. No, it shouldn't have happened, Clay replied. Omar nodded once, turned, and left the plane. No press. No cameras. Just action. But the internet wasn't done. By the time the plane left the gate, Tasha's video had crossed 100,000 views. Then 200. Then it hit the news cycle. Talk shows. Twitter. Headlines. Medal of Honor hero reassigned to coach. Airline president steps in. Some called it redemption. Others said it was performative. But people talked. By the time the plane touched down in D.C., 3 people waited at the gate 2 from the airline, 1 for Veterans Affairs. They offered a car. He refused. They offered help with bags. He declined. Clay walked out alone. His niece Adrienne was waiting. Uncle Clay, you're all over the internet. I figured something was up. You're trending. They want interviews. I didn't say anything worth quoting. Exactly. That's why they care. Next morning, microphone in hand, Clay finally spoke. Small auditorium. Modest stage. Folding chairs. And more cameras than planned. A bronze plaque waited under blue cloth. Adrian squeezed his hand. The VA guy gave short intro. Respectful. When Clay stepped forward, silence. You don't know me, he began, voice low but clear. You know the idea of me. He let that sit. I didn't want this ceremony. I didn't ask for a building to bear my name. I sure didn't want to be a symbol for a system that forgets who built it. Murmurs. Eyes locked on him. I served not because America was perfect, but because I believe in what it could be. Because I believed in people. But belief doesn't mean blindness. I've seen how fast people forget you when the uniform's gone. How easy it is to be moved to the back, not because of space, but because of neglect. And what happened on that plane? That wasn't about a seat. That was about dignity. And how easy it is to lose sight of it. Silence. But I saw people speak up. I saw strangers take a stand. That tells me we're not done. I don't need applause. I need respect. I need truth. And I need people to remember service doesn't expire. He stepped back. No applause at first, just stillness. Then a standing ovation that shook the walls. Within a week, 12 million views. Commonwealth Airlines introduced the Jefferson Protocol, guaranteed upgrades for service members when available. Clay didn't want that either, but it stuck. When asked for more statements, he said nothing. No tour, no brand, no book. He sat on his porch with Adrian, flipping through thank you letters. "You think anything changed?" she asked. "Some things don't change overnight," he said. "But sometimes people do, and that's how it starts." He tapped his flip phone, checked the time. Respect shouldn't have to be earned after it's already been paid in full. Adrian leaned her head on his shoulder. "You always sound like you're giving a speech." "Nah," he chuckled. "Just too old to waste words." And across the country, people were still talking not just about him, but about respect, service, legacy. So if his story made you pause, made you feel something, don't let it fade. Call your parents. Thank a veteran. Respect the people who came before you, not just with words, but with action. Because dignity isn't a favor. It's a right. What do you think, was that justice or just cleanup? Tell us below.